This is Edexcel Secure Mock 3, Paper 2F. Question 1. 6% of students at a school walk to school. What percentage of students do not walk to school? Well, the students that walk to and do not walk to will make up 100% of students, because you either walk or you don't. So 100% minus the 60% would give you 40%. Here is a list of numbers, out of the list of numbers, which is a power of 2. Now, a power of 2 just means either 2 to the power of 1, which is just 2, 2 squared, which is 2 times 2, which is 4, 2 cubed, which is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8, 2 to the power 4, which is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which would be 16. So you can see that 16 is the first number that is a power of 2. The probability of an event is shown by the cross on the probability scale. Write down an estimate for the probability of the event. Well, it's exactly halfway, so we're going to put either 50% or a half or 0.5. Any of those will be correct. Question 4, write 1/5 as a decimal. Well, to write any fraction as a decimal, we need it out of either 10 or 100 or 1,000, etc. We can make this one out of 10 by times the bottom by 2, so we need to times the top by 2, so it would be 2/10, which would be 0.2. Number 5, Deborah recorded the favourite colour of each of 30 students in her class. The incomplete table shows information about her class. Complete the table. Well, we can complete the table because if we add all these up, 10 add 5 is 15, add 6 is 21, add 7 is 28. And it tells us in the question that there are 30 people, so there must be 2 people that had other as their colour. What is the modal colour? Well, modal just means the most occurring. So the one that had the most people in it is blue, because there were 10 of those people, so the answer would be blue. Mark asked each student in a different class to name their favourite colour. For this class, the number of students who said blue is 3 times the number of students who said green. Write down the ratio of blue to green. So it's really important that blue comes first and green comes second. There are 3 times as many blues as there were green, so it would be 3 to 1. So the answer would just be 3 to 1. Question 6. Here is a list of numbers. From the numbers in the list, write down an even number. Well, we can see that all of these are actually odd apart from 22. So the only option that we've got is 22. Write down a multiple of 9. It's really helpful to write down your times tables at this point. So your 9 times tables are 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54. You can see the first number that's in our list is 63. Write down the square numbers. Again, it's important to write them down. So 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, 4 times 4 is 16, 5 5 is 25, 6 6 is 36, 7 7 is 49, and we can see that 49 is in our list too. Question 7. Jaroslav puts some items into his rucksack. The rucksack has a weight of 275 grams. Work out the total weight of the rucksack and all of the items. Give your answer in kilograms. So the first thing to notice is that all of these are in grams, and 1 kilogram equals 1,000 grams. So if we write that down straight away, there's usually a mark for that, so that's a good thing to write down straight away. We then need to add all these up, but he's got 2 apples, so 2 lots of 120 would be 240 grams. He's got 2 bottles of water at that. You just use a calculator if you can't do that in your head. That would be 1,048 grams. And then just 1 of each of these. We're going to use a calculator, add all these up, which gets you to 2,676 grams. Always worth double checking you put the exact numbers in. If you've got a scientific calculator, it shouldn't leave the numbers at the top to make sure that you've pressed the right numbers. So to get that into kilograms, we do 2,676 divided by 1,000. And again, nice and easy to do without a calculator, but if you need a calculator, that would be fine. That would be 2.676 kilograms. Question 8. Here are the first 5 numbers in a sequence. Find the first negative number. So we can see that it's going down in 6s. So we take it off 6 each time. So we take off 6 again, that would be 17. Another 6 off would be 11, then 5, and then minus 1. So the first negative number would be negative 1. Sarah says that negative 100 is not a number in the sequence. Is she correct? And explain why. So first of all, we need to decide whether she's correct or not, and in this case she is. So yes, it's not in the sequence because minus 100 is even. All the other numbers are odd. So it's really important you look for a nice easy reason. Don't just continue the sequence on down to minus 100 because that will take up a lot of your time in your exam. Question 9. Becky invests £5,000 for 2 years in a bank account. She gets simple interest. So simple interest means you just work out the percentage and just add that on every year, the same amount every year. Work out the total amount of interest Becky gets back at the end of 2 years. So we're only working out the interest, not the total. So we're not going to add this on to 5,000, we're just after the interest. So to work out 3%, we can either do that on a calculator by doing 0.03 times 5,000, which gives you £150 for your 3%, or if you prefer, you can do 1% by divided by 100, which is 50, times by 3 will be 150. So 1 year will be 150, so 2 years will be 2 times 150, which is £300. So the amount of interest you will get is £300. It doesn't ask you how much will be in the bank account. How much will be in the bank account will be 5,300. It asks you what the interest is. Number 10. A teacher asks George to think of a number. She then says, add 10 to your number and multiply the answer by 3. George thinks of number 5 and he writes down 5 add 10 times 3 equals 35. What should George have written down? Well, it's absolutely fine to write 5 add 10 times 3. That's what he's been asked to do. But he said at this point, he said add 10 to your number and multiply the answer by 3. So we need to do this bit first. So 5 add 10 would be 15, times by 3 would actually be 45. He'd done the working out for his bit correctly using bid maths, but he should have done this bit first because we needed brackets. So he should have written 5 add 10 in brackets, times by 3 equals 45. Question 11. Polly has a full 5 kilogram sack of rice. She pours the rice from this sack into bags. She fills as many bags as possible and each bag has 350 grams of rice. How many bags can she fill? Well, first of all, this is in grams and this is in kilograms. So we're going to convert this to grams, which will be 5,000. So we need to do 5,000 divided by 350, which gives us 14.2 and so on. The 0.2 just means there's going to be some left over, but we can only actually fill 14 bags. So the answer would be 14. No matter what this is, unless it ticks over into 15, you can only fill 14 bags. Polly assumes that the rice from 2 sacks will fill twice as many bags. Is she correct? Well, we need to work this out individually because we can't just assume that that's correct. Because if this was over 14.5, then doubling this, you'd still only be able to get 14 sacks here, but doubling it would get up to 29. So you'd be able to fill 29, not 28. So we've got to make sure we do some proper working out. So in this case, yes, she is correct because this is less than 0.5. So we've got less than half a sack left. And we could show that by saying double the amount, so 10,000 grams divided by 350 would equal 28.57 and so on. But that is still just 28 sacks. Okay, so we can still only fill 28 and just double that. So yes, she's correct. Question 12. A rule to change a UK shoe size to a European shoe size is multiply the UK shoe size by 1.25 and then add 32. Katie's UK shoe size is a 5. Work out a European. So to do this, you would start with your 5, you times by 1.25, then add 32. You can just put that straight into your calculator. Will give you 38.25. Now, you can only have whole shoe sizes, so we could have her put 38 because it's quite close, rounding down, but really that'd be a bit too small because she's over that, so we need to put 39. Even though that's mathematically incorrect rounding, because she's gone over a size 38, you should really put size 39. Gustav's European shoe size is 42, work out Gustav's UK. So we need to do the opposite this time. So we need to start with 42, we're going to take the 32 off, which is the opposite of adding 32, and then we're going to divide by 1.25. If you put that in your calculator, either use the fraction button to get that in, or the top needs to be in brackets, and then that should give you 8 for his UK shoe size. Question 13. Judith and Simon are organising different parties at a hotel. This graph can be used to find the cost in pounds with different numbers of people at the party. Judith has £700 to spend, find the greatest number of people she can have at a party. So if we go up to 700, really carefully go across and read down. Now it's really important we know what this scale is. There are 10 squares there, so every little square must be worth 1. So that must be 34 people she can have at her party. Simon has organised a party for 20 people. Use the graph to find the cost. So we start with 20 people, we go up and we read off, and again we need to know what the scale is. there are 5 squares going up to 100, so each square must be 20, so that would be £440 there. 440. Now be really careful, make sure you're dead accurate with that. It could look as though it's in the middle there, so it could be at 450, but just be really careful with your thing. There's usually some give in that in the answer. Part C, it says more than 20 people want to go to Simon's party, work out the cost of each extra person. So to work out the cost of each person, we need to really look at the gradient of this line. We need to see what each person goes up by. Now to do one person at a time is going to be really difficult. So what we're best off doing is looking at the full gradient and looking at points where it goes through the corners of some squares. So the corners of squares I've chosen are down here and here. And if we look and go across, then we've got that 40 people would cost him from 100 up to 800, would cost him an extra £700. So 40 people cost him £700. So one person would be 700 divided by 40, which would be £17.50. Question 14. Right, £4.20 to £1.40 to £7 in its simplest form. So don't like really using decimals, so I'm going to write this in pence. So it'll be 420 to 140 to 700. Now the first thing I can do there is I can divide through by 10, which will give me 42 to 14 to 70. Now if you're quite good, you'd notice that 14 goes into all of these, but if we're not, we can just half these first of all. So if we, in fact 7 definitely goes into those, don't we? So we'll divide by 7, which will get me to 6 to 2 to 10, and then we can see that we can just half those, which will be 3 to 1 to 5. So I could have gone straight from there to there by dividing by 14. I could have spotted from here that 140 goes in, which got me to there as well. But if you need to do it in steps, we need to do it in steps. So the final ratio will be 3 to 1 to 5. It says write a number on the dotted line to complete the statement. 6 to 4 is equal to something to 1. So the 4 has turned into a 1. So to do that, we've got to divide by 4. So to get this number, we need to divide 6 by 4. And to divide 6 by 4, you get 1.5 or 1.5. Question 15. ABC is a straight line. BD and CD are equal. Angle ABD equals 110. Show that BDC, so BDC is 40 degrees. So we're after this angle here. Give a reason for each stage. So the first thing we're going to do is going to work out this angle here. So angle CBD. So angle CBD equals 180 minus 110, which equals 70 degrees, because angles on a straight line add up to 180. The next thing I'm going to do, so this one's 70, is I now know that this one's 70 because this is an isosceles triangle if these two sides are the same. A base angles in an isosceles triangle are equal. So angle BCD equals 70 because base angles in an isosceles triangle are equal. Then the angle that we're after, BDC, so angle BDC would equal 180 minus these two 70s, so that would be 40 degrees, because angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees, and we've shown what it's asked us to show. Question 16. In a tin of baked beans, the weight of beans to the weight of tomatoes to the weight of the other ingredients is in the ratio of 3 to 2 to 1. There are 150 grams of tomatoes in the tin, so the tomatoes are 150, not the entire tin. So the tomatoes is the first bit, so this is the beans, tomatoes and other, so the tomatoes are 150. So 2 parts of this is 150, so 150 divided by 2 would be 75, so that means that 1 part would be 75, and 3 parts, 3 lots of 75 is 225. So there'll be 225 grams of beans. Question 17. Riddington and Greenwick are 2 small villages. The population of Riddington has increased from 80 to 120, and the population of Greenwick has decreased from 200 to 120. Show that Riddington has had the greater percentage change. So percentage change is change divided by the original times 100. So for Riddington, we're going to do the change, which has got 40 increase, divided by the original, which is 80, times 100, which is 50%. And for Greenwick, the difference is 80. The original was 200, times by 100, which gives us 40%. So 50%, please don't think that this is obvious, you must write these down. 50% is more than 40%. So Riddington had the greatest percentage change. Now I know that sentence sounds obvious, but it's really important that you think that when you are doing all your answers, you write your answers to other people that aren't maths teachers. You've got to make sure you write them to somebody that doesn't know about maths. So make every last little bit of obvious bit written down. Question 18. Andy flies from the UK to Japan. His plane ticket costs £554. Andy then flies from Japan to Australia and his plane tickets cost 70,140 Japanese yen. The exchange rate is £1 is 140 yen. Layla flies to the UK to Australia directly and a plane costs 1,860 Australian dollars with an exchange rate of $1 is 62 pence. Who pays the most? So first of all, we need to work out what this is in pounds. So if we do 70,140, every £1 is worth 140 of these. So we need to divide that by 140 using your calculator, and that should give you £501. Add these two together, so 554 for his original flight, and that is 1,055. Layla, $1,860, sorry, $860, and every every dollar is worth 62 pence. So if we times that by 0.62 or 62 pence, that will give us that was £1,153.20. So Layla pays more. Question 19. Oliver records a distance from London to each of 8 cities in the USA. He also records the time taken to fly from London to each of these cities. The scatter graph shows the information. Chicago is a city in the USA and Chicago is 4,000 miles from London. By drawing a line of best fit, find an estimate for the time taken from London to Chicago. So to answer this question here, we need to go do a line of best fit first of all. So it's really important. Lots of students don't do a line of best fit. You've got to do a line of best fit and then go to 4,000 and read off the time. So going back to our graph, use a ruler and a pencil, really, really important, and get this as accurately as you possibly can. It's about like that, but you should really use a pencil and a ruler to do that. And then we go to 4,000, and we go off and read off, and that's, looking at our scale, that's at £495. So the answer would be 495 minutes, sorry, not pounds. It says, why is your line, why is your answer to part A only an estimate? Well, we've used a line of best fit, and lines of best fit can be different from person to person. So all we need to write is that lines of best fit can vary. It says, calculate the gradient of your line of best fit. So the gradient of a line is the change in y divided by the change in x. So going back to our graph, we're going to try and find 2 points where it goes through the corner of some point. So it goes through the corners just there and there. So if we draw our triangle in, this different distance here is 500. So from 5,000 to 5,500 is 500. And from here it goes from 600 to 650. So that's 50. So this is the change in y, because this is the y-axis, and this is the change in x. So we're going to do 500 divided by 50, which is 10. It says, give an interpretation of the gradient of your line of best fit. Well, we've just done this distance divided by this distance. So this is the actual distance of the plane, and this is the time taken. So we're doing distance divided by time, which we should all know is speed. Question 20. It says rotate shape S 90 degrees clockwise, centre 5 4. Label your image T. So really important to use tracing paper for this, and what you would do is you would go to 5 4, you put your tracing paper over this point and over your shape and draw your shape in, and then rotate it clockwise, so this way, 90 degrees, and you'll end up with your shape being just here. It says describe fully the single transformation that maps T onto S. So we're going back the opposite way. So it's still going to be a rotation, it's still going to be 90 degrees, but this time it's going to be anti-clockwise. You're going back the opposite way. Now it's really important you don't just finish there, you've got to put the centre of rotation, so about 5 4, because the centre of rotation will be the same as before. Question 21, it says, here are two rectangles, all measurements are in centimetres, and the area of rectangle A is equal to the area of rectangle B. But we're going to work out the perimeter of B. So we can use this fact here to work out what X is. So if we work out the area of A, we're going to do 2.5 times 4x, which will give us 10x's. And on here we're going to do 7 lots of 2x minus 3, so length times width, which will give us 14x minus 21. Now because these are equal, we could put these equal to each other and then solve this equation. So we take the smallest amount of x off both sides, so we take 10x off both sides, which would be 4x minus 21 equals nothing. Then we're going to add 21 to both sides to get 4x equal to 21, and then we're going to divide by 4 to get x is 5.25. Once we've got x is 5.25, we're after the perimeter of B. So we need to work out the length of this, so we do 2 lots of 5.25, take away 3. If you put that into your calculator, you should get 7.5. So the perimeter would be 7.5, add 7.5, add 7, add 7 going all the way around, which is 29 centimetres. Question 22. The diagram shows a fair four-sided spinner has meters going to spin the spinner twice, complete the tree diagram. So the probability of landing on an A is, we've got 4 equal bits and the A's on 3 of them. So A's will be 3/4 and B's will be 1/4. So same on here. And that's our tree diagram completed. It says work out the probability that the spinner will land on A first and then on B. So to land on A first will be 3/4 and to land on B second will be 1/4. So we want it to land on A first and, so we're using the AND rule here, so we're multiplying, on to B second. So 3/4 times 1/4 would be 3/16. Question 23. S equals pi squared minus b squared, brackets b squared minus a squared, when a equals 8 and b equals 10, calculate the value of s. Give your answer to 3 significant figures. Now, lots of people just put this straight into a calculator and can possibly make mistakes, so it's really important you write down your working out. So your working out is putting these values into this. So b squared would be 10 squared, and that would be that. You don't need to write any more, you can now put it in your calculator, and that will give you 355.3 and so on. But we're only after 3 significant figures, so we only need 1 decimal place there, because that will mean that this will say it's 355. It says only blue vans and white vans are made in a factory. The ratio of the number of blue vans to white vans is 43. Write down the fraction of blue vans. So there are 4 blue vans out of 7 vans altogether, so it'd be 4 out of 7. For the blue vans, the number of small vans to the number of large vans is 3 to 5. Work out the fraction of the number of vans made that are blue and large. So the fraction that are blue is 4/7, and, so we're using that AND rule again, so we're multiplying. The fraction that are large are 5 out of 8, so times 5/8, which gives us 20/56. Now, it's a 3-mark question, so I would probably cancel down, just to make sure you don't lose that mark, which would cancel down to 5/14. Question 25. Linda recorded the temperatures in degrees C at 9 AM on each of 30 days. The table shows information about their results. Calculate an estimate for the mean. Now, we're using an estimate. That doesn't mean we need to round the numbers. What it means is rather than using the distance between these, we're going to use just the middle value. So the middle of 10 and 12, we're going to presume that all 3 of these days had a temperature of 11. So that's why it's an estimate. We're going to presume that all 8 of these days had a temperature of 13. All 14 of these days had a temperature of 15, these had a temperature of 17, and these had a temperature of 19. Now, to work out the mean, you add them all up and divide by how many there are. So first of all, there are 3 days with 11 degrees C. So 3 lots of 11 is 33. There are 8 days at 13. So 8 times 13 is 104. Again, you can use your calculator for this. Times these together, we get 210, 68 and 19. So if we add all those up, the total for all these will be 434. And the total number of days, which we're told in the question anyway, is 30. So we do 434 divided by 30, which would be 14.4666, carrying on. And that's the 1 decimal place, so that would be 14.5 degrees C. Question 26. The diagram shows a square, ABCD, of side 8 centimetres inside a circle centre O. The vertices of the square lie on the circle, so that means it's touching right at these corners. So vertices means corners. Work out the total area of the 4 shaded segments. So we're after just these shaded segments. So to do this, we can work out the area of the full circle, and we could take away the area of the square, and that'll give me the shaded region. So first of all, we need to find the radius of this circle, which is this distance here. Now we're only given this diagonal, but if we call this x, this will also be x. Now we've got a right angled triangle here, so we could use Pythagoras, and Pythagoras says that the hypotenuse squared is equal to the other 2 sides squared and added together. So x squared add x squared is 2x squareds, and 8 squared is 64. So we've got 64 must be equal to 2x squareds. So to find x, we can divide by 2, so 32 would be x squared, and then we can square root that. So the square root of 32, and the square root of 32 would be 5.65, and so on. Now I would leave that number in your calculator, because we're going to use that in a minute, and we don't want to round at any stage until the end. So the circle would have area pi r squared. So pi times is 5.65 squared, which should already be in your calculator with the full calculator display. And if you put that in accurately, you should get 100.5309 carrying on centimetres squared. So the square would be length times width, which would be 8 times 8. So the square is 8 times 8, which is 64 centimetres squared. So we need to take these 2 away from each other. So 100 take away 64 would give us 36.53 so on centimetres squared. And it asks for 3 significant figures, so that would be 36.5 centimetres squared. Really important, you never ever round any of these numbers until you get to the last bit where it tells you to. You just leave these numbers in your calculator for use later.